Have you ever wondered what it would actually cost to pollute? Not just in an environmental sense, but in real hard dollars? Well, it turns out there's a massive global market that's doing exactly that, slapping a price tag on carbon emissions. And it's a system that's pretty much hiding in plain sight, moving an unbelievable amount of money around. So let's pull back the curtain and see what's really going on.
Okay, get ready for this number. $103 billion. That's how much cash governments pulled in from carbon pricing in 2024 alone. That number comes from the Institute for Climate Economics. So yeah, this is not some small niche market. It's a full-blown global economic engine, and it is absolutely reshaping industry. So that begs the question, what is everyone actually trading here? You can't hold it, you can't see it. What they're buying and selling is the right to emit 1 single ton of carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. And the story of how that right gets bought, sold, and regulated is, well, it's pretty fascinating. To really get our heads around this, we need to zoom out and look at the whole picture. This isn't just one country's policy or one little program. We're talking about a sprawling, worldwide system that has become a serious economic powerhouse. And just look at the scale of this thing. Right now, in 2024, there are 78 different carbon pricing systems up and running around the globe. And together, they cover about 28% of all greenhouse gas emissions. But here's the kicker. The places with these systems, they account for a whopping 65% of the entire world's GDP. This thing has some serious economic muscle. But here's where it starts to get a little tricky. It's not just one big, happy market. It's really two parallel worlds, and they operate with totally different rules and for different reasons. Nailing the difference between these two is the absolute key to understanding the whole system. All right, so on one side, you've got the compliance markets. Think of these as the official government-run game. They are legally mandatory for the big polluters, your power plants, your heavy manufacturing. The goal is super simple: follow the law. Then on the other side, you have the voluntary markets. This is where companies, NGOs, even individuals jump in by choice. They're trying to hit their own green targets, usually by buying what are called offsets. Let's dig into each of these. So let's start with world number one, the compliance market. This is the official rulebook, the side of things where governments are stepping in directly to put a price on pollution. Now, the main tool in their toolbox is something called an emission trading system, or ETS. You've probably heard it called cap and trade. And the idea is actually pretty straightforward. The government sets a hard limit, a cap, on total emissions for an industry. Then it issues permits or allowances for every ton of CO2 that's allowed under that cap. So here's how it works, broken down into 4 steps. First, the regulators set that firm cap. Step 2, companies get their allowances. Sometimes they're handed out for free, other times they have to buy them. Then comes the trade part. A company that gets innovative and cuts its pollution can sell its extra allowances to another company that's lagging behind. But honestly, the most important step is the last one. Over time, the government lowers the cap, which makes those allowances scarcer and more expensive. That forces everybody to get cleaner. It's easy for this all to feel very abstract, right? Just numbers flying around on a screen. But the end goal of all this financial engineering is very, very real. By making it costlier to pollute, the whole system creates a powerful financial reason to protect the actual physical world around us. So who are the main players here? Well, the CFA Institute breaks it down into 4 main groups. You've got the government regulators who design the whole thing. Then you have the covered entities. That's just a fancy term for the big industrial companies that have to play the game. You've got the exchanges, which are like the stock market for these allowances, and more you have big institutional investors who see these carbon allowances as a whole new type of asset to trade. Okay, let's switch gears and jump into our second world, the voluntary market. Now, this is kind of the Wild West. There's less regulation, for sure, but there is a ton of innovation, mostly driven by technology and big corporate climate promises. The entire voluntary market really boils down to one huge challenge: trust. I mean, think about it. If a company buys a carbon credit that says it's protecting a rainforest, how does that company know it's for real? How can they be sure that the exact same credit wasn't already sold to 10 other people? This problem, this trust gap, is what a whole new wave of tech startups is trying to fix. And one of the most exciting tools they're using is blockchain. Because blockchain creates a public record that's transparent and can't be changed, it can, in theory, solve that whole double counting problem. We're seeing startups like CarbCoin and Carbon Planet turning these credits into unique digital assets, basically NFTs, to guarantee that each credit is one of a kind and can be tracked from the moment it's created to the moment it's used. The other big game changer is AI. I mean, how do you prove that a forest covering thousands of acres is actually soaking up the carbon it's supposed to? Well, startups like Vanya are using artificial intelligence to comb through satellite images and sensor data, basically giving us a real-time, high-tech audit from space. It's taking verification from a person with a clipboard to an algorithm with a bird's-eye view. Okay, so we've got these two huge, complicated worlds of carbon trading. One is driven by government rules, the other is all about tech and innovation. Which, of course, brings us to the most important question of all. Is any of this actually working? Is it making a real difference? At first glance, like we saw earlier, the numbers look pretty decent. Covering 28% of global emissions with some kind of carbon price, that's a pretty big deal. It really suggests that the basic idea of making polluters pay is catching on around the world. But, and this is a really big but, that 28% number doesn't tell the full story, not even close. In fact, it kind of hides the single biggest problem these markets are facing right now, the difference between having a price on paper and having a price that someone actually pays. And boom, this slide shows the massive gap. I4CE did the math, and when you look only at emissions that are covered at an effective price, meaning a price is actually being paid, that number just collapses. It goes from 28% all the way down to just 6%. A huge slice of those so-called covered emissions aren't really facing a cost at all. So what in the world is going on? Well, the gap is there because of a very common policy tool, free allowances. To keep their big industries from just picking up and moving to countries with no carbon price, a lot of governments just give away a huge chunk of their emissions permits for free. And the result is that for many, many companies, the price of carbon is effectively zero. This chart puts that in some really stark financial terms. In 2024, these cap-and-trade systems brought in about $53 billion. But the money they didn't bring in because of all those free allowances was even more, an estimated $75 billion. That's money that could have been plowed back into green technology, but it was just left on the table. So this is where we are. We have a $100 billion market that's been built to put a price on carbon. We have incredible new technologies that are racing to make it all more transparent and trustworthy. And yet, there's this huge gap between the price on paper and the price people actually pay. So really, the question isn't if carbon has a price anymore. It clearly does. The real question is, can we finally figure out how to make that price truly matter?